What's up, fam, and welcome to my mukbang eating seaweed. Okay, that's not what this video is about. I'm just kidding, but it does bring up the idea that when you create videos for YouTube, you really have no idea what's going to take off, especially for a new and tiny channel like mine. So here I am. I did this YouTube challenge at the beginning of the year where we needed to review a product, and I decided to review my electric vehicle, my Nissan Leaf, and it's the worst video that I have on my channel. But I think pretty objectively it's poorly written. I didn't script it. It's poorly filmed and it's poorly edited. I didn't get a chance to send it to my editor. So it's a terrible video, and I put it on YouTube unlisted just for the challenge. It did all right. And then several weeks later, I guess maybe I forgot how bad of a video it was, and I hadn't posted anything in a little while, so I decided to go ahead and publish. I would have never expected it, but you know, fast forward 3 or 4 weeks, YouTube suddenly started pushing it, and it is now easily my most popular video. It is clearly the topic that is of interest to viewers, and so I'm going to follow up now with an Ask Me Anything. I'm going to answer your questions. Well, not really your questions. Again, my channel is very tiny, so all these questions are coming from my friends. But yeah, I'm just going to answer these questions and talk about what it's been like owning a Nissan Leaf for almost 9 years. So before we get to the questions, I just want to give a little bit of background on our experience with the Leaf, starting with how we got the Leaf in the first place. This was in late 2012. My wife, well, we were dating at the time, so she needed a new car. Her vehicle was just shot. And so when she was shopping around for vehicles, she was really interested in electric cars. She's very into sustainability, and that was what her work involved as well. And so she was drawn to the Nissan Leaf because they were giving out these amazing deals on leases. Nissan was really trying to push these at the time just to get more vehicles out on the road, and they had built all this infrastructure. They had done a major marketing campaign, so I guess they just really felt like whether they made money or not on the actual vehicle, they just wanted to push them out there. The under $200 a month deal was with a certain down payment. I don't know, maybe it was like $2,000 down payment or something. What she ended up walking away with was, I think the payment was like $225 a month, and I think she put no money down, although she did trade in her car, if I remember correctly. So they gave her like $500 credit down payment for that. So it was something in that ballpark, like $500 down, and then a little over $200 a month. And she got the highest level trim for this vehicle. So it was a pretty good deal. And the lease was, I want to say it was a 39-month lease with like the option to extend by like 2 or 3 months. So like there's a little window when you could return the vehicle. I'm normally very skeptical about leasing vehicles. I think they only make, they don't really make financial sense in most cases. Maybe if you're running a business and it's just easier to operate with leases, then that makes sense. Or if it's more of like a personal fulfillment kind of thing, then sure, you know, you want to lease different cars and kind of try out a bunch, you know, then that's the way to go. But if you're just in the market to buy a daily driver that you want to have for the long haul, then I don't see how leasing would normally make sense. So I was very skeptical about that. I was pretty agnostic to the idea of an electric car. You know, just like, well, whatever, I don't know. But the more I looked into it, the more excited I got, and then she ended up getting the car, and you know, I'm very happy for that, because I think this is a theme with us, but she makes decisions that I'm not sure about, and then later on I feel like, wow, that was a great decision. So yeah, that's how we ended up she ended up, I mean, of course it was her decision. She was getting the car herself.
Okay, cut. Oh, God.
And so that's how the Nissan Leaf World Car of the Year, I think in 2011, that's how the Nissan Leaf entered our lives. And so with that said, there's 3 other points that I want to make before we get to the questions. First of all, I want to make this clear that when I say almost 9 years, it's a little over 8.5 years now that we've been driving a Nissan Leaf. It's actually 2 different vehicles. So there's that first car that we had on lease and that we returned after 40 months, I believe. We returned it. And then a few weeks later, I bought the exact same year and trim Nissan Leaf, and it was kind of an upgrade because it had fewer miles, better battery capacity, and it looked aesthetically like a brand new car, whereas the one that we returned had been in so many fender benders and just had so much damage all around it. So it was a great upgrade, even though it was basically the same exact car. So over this entire period of almost 9 years, we've actually had 2 different 2012 Nissan Leafs. So the second point I want to make is that over this 9-year period, we have actually lived in 3 different cities with very different environments. And so we've experienced driving the Leaf with 3 very different sort of driving patterns. And so the differences are interesting to note. And so yes, the last thing that I wanted to point out, the third thing, is that we did move twice with our Nissan Leaf. That first move was from the Washington, D.C. area to Jacksonville, Florida, which is over 700 miles. And then the second move was from Jacksonville to Miami, which is about 350 miles. So if you count both of those as sort of road trips, then we've been on a total of 3 road trips because we did those 2 moves, plus we went on 1 actual road trip with our Leaf. I started recording this video at 12:30 in the afternoon, and now it's 10:30 at night. You have no idea what just happened in the last 10 hours. I've had the most unbelievable day, not in a good way. And I hope I never have another day like today again. I'm tired. But here we go. On to the questions. All right, so question number 1 is from my friend Harry. He asked, how many times did you get range anxiety? And I think this is a great first question to kind of delve into the mindset and psyche of being an electric vehicle owner. So let me just say, as an EV owner, your tolerance for range anxiety totally builds up, and sort of your tolerance probably as well for having to plan your driving patterns and your schedules around potential pit stops, where you could top up and add some more charge to your car. All of that you just get used to doing more of and less anxious about driving from place to place. So with that said, to answer your question, Harry, I probably had real, actual range anxiety where I was really, really nervous and stressed, probably about 24 times or so over the 9 years. But I feel like if I was just a normal person who has never owned an EV and I never shifted my mindset at all, there's probably a normal person would probably have had range anxiety 100 or 200 times over the course of my driving the Leaf. So that's the best way I can answer you there. And I'll also mention that I've never actually myself, while driving, I've never run out of charge in the Leaf. It's never been 0 range and then the car just shuts down and stops running on the side of the road. But I have basically run out of charge twice. And what I mean by basically is that I didn't get to that point where I was just dead in the water, but I had to drastically abort my plans. And so in one case, I had to actually call a towing company. I used the Nissan electric free towing. They provide 24/7 free towing to all Leaf owners. And so I used that one time. I didn't actually run out of charge, but I would have if I had tried to make it to my next stop. So I just had the tow truck take me to my next stop where I could charge up. And then the second time was I was just not going to make it to where I was going. I had to call people and tell them I'm not going to make it because the two fast chargers that I planned on using to be able to get myself to where I was going, the first one was broken and then the second one was broken. What? And so instead I just let them know I'm not going to make it. I had to head home, and even just to get home I had to stop for 30 minutes to charge up just enough at a level 2 charger just to make it home. So those were my two really worst experiences. I had many other times where I did come close, and like I'm saying, there was real range anxiety in those cases. I've actually had a number of times where I did hit all dashes on my range, but I knew I was going to make it because I was very close to home. But yeah, that's what you get used to. All right, question number 2 comes from my friend and fellow YouTuber Regan Shorter. Go check out her channel and show her some love. And so Regan's question is, how do you find charging stations? And I don't have a super straightforward answer for you, so I'm just gonna go through this in parts. So there's an app and a website called PlugShare, which is my go-to for the beginning of my research. It's a pretty comprehensive directory of all charging stations, and it's crowdsourced, so they have a lot of good information on there, but it's not gonna have every single station that exists. They definitely have some that are missing from time to time, and so it's a good place to start. But if you're really wanting to do some thorough research, then you'll want to go beyond PlugShare. And so there's other places you can look, but what I would just do is start with PlugShare, and then I also have 5 other charging station apps on my phone: EVgo, ChargePoint, SEMA Connect, Blink, and Electrify America. And I actually just deleted a 6th one because I no longer ever use it. I think it was called GE Watt Station. So these 6 apps are all apps that are for a specific network of charging stations that are managed and operated by one company. And so you go there because for a few reasons. One is that in theory, these apps aren't going to be missing any stations that belong to their network. I mean, they should know all of the stations that exist, that they've built and that they operate and manage. So that way you're not really going to miss out if you go and look for each of these networks. Secondly, these apps are usually going to be a lot more detailed. They will be able to tell you the charging power, the pricing, and whether a station is down, like it's out of order, or if it's in use, if somebody's using it, that's also good to know as well. So these apps will tell you those details. And then the third reason is because it makes it easy to charge when you have these apps. If you're actually at the station, oftentimes it's just like a couple clicks on the app and your car can start charging. You can pay through the app, things like that. So that's what I do. Pretty much would always be PlugShare first, and then once I find out which network the stations are that I'd be looking at, then I would use the individual apps. Question number 3, also from Regan again. Do you have to pay to charge like you would pay to pump gas? And the answer is it depends. I mean, yes, most of the time, yes, you would have to pay, and the amount you have to pay ranges. It really just depends on the station, whether some of them are free, which is awesome, and then some of them charge very little probably the cost of the electricity, which is great as well. And then some of them charge a lot more, like they're trying to profit on the electricity, like they're trying to recoup the construction costs, or maybe they are charging you for sort of rolled into the parking fee if it's like a very desirable area for parking. So all of these things factor in, and there's some places that just charge an outrageous amount, and then there's some places that charge a very fair amount, and then there are places that are free. So it depends. Also, Nissan has a program that's called No Charge to Charge. I think they still do it, I'm not sure. And this program is for like new Leaf buyers. All right, so question number 4 is coming from another YouTuber, Kimberly. Her channel is Kim Famberger. Also, please check her out. And she asks, how often do you charge the car and how do you charge it? Level 1, 2, or 3. So I'm going to answer this with 3 answers for each of the different cities that we lived in. In Washington, D.C., we used the car. Basically, it was my wife's commute to work car, which she only commuted 5 days every 2 weeks. So basically every other day. And so she would charge, she had to drive a long way to work. It was like 32 miles or something like that. So she would charge at work because they had charging stations for their employees, level 2 charging stations, so she could easily charge from empty to full during her workday. And so she would charge every time she went to work, which was about every other day. And then, you'd use the car sparingly in the city, and then she'd go back and charge again. So that was pretty much the routine. Sometimes if we drove around in the city, we might charge it here and there at places in the city, but essentially it was just she charged at work every other day. Then when we lived in Jacksonville, Jacksonville is a very, very spread out city. And we were running our own real estate business, which meant that we were going to properties all over town. And so I would say that we charged probably every other day at home, level 1 charging overnight, probably every other day, sometimes every night. But then we did a lot of charging during the day, especially if we had to do a lot of driving. Then we kind of work in a stop for lunch or something somewhere where there's a charging station where we could add a little bit, or there's a handful of level 3 fast chargers in the city that we might stop in for like 10 minutes and get a fast charge, which would really boost up our range. So that's kind of what we did. I would say every other day at home, and then probably 3 or 4 times during the week we'd charge it somewhere while we were out around town, and that's just what we had to do to be able to get where we were going. And then the third place is here in Miami. We live in a suburb of Miami, Doral. And I would say ever since we moved to Doral, it's been almost 4 years now, and I would say 90% of our life is contained in this suburb of Miami, like this sort of, 3 by 3 mile suburb. So like, anywhere you want to go in Doral, like the farthest point from our home is like 3 miles away. When we first moved down, my wife worked for 2 years, and her commute to work from our door was 2 miles. So, she was driving 4 miles round trip, and so we've used the car very, very sparingly here in Doral, and I would say, and then especially in the pandemic. And so, during the pandemic, I think we've been charging it once a week. Prior to the pandemic, maybe twice a week. But we really don't use the car much. So question number 5 comes from Kimberly and Regan again. So Kimberly's question was, how does the battery life compare to how often you drive it? And then Regan asked, have you noticed a change in the battery life over time? And so I'll try and address those together with this answer. And quite simply, yes, there's been a big change in the battery life. If you saw my original video, our battery capacity is horrible now. So, when you get the Leaf in the beginning, it comes with 12 bars. And a lot of people believe that those 12 bars actually, the first bar represents more capacity than the rest of the bars. So it's almost like you start off with 13 bars. But in any case, you start with 12 bars and we are down to 5. And I think in the beginning, the range was 80 miles in like normal conditions, and now our range is like 40 something miles in normal conditions. So it's really gotten a lot worse. And how does that compare to how often we drive it? I don't know exactly how to answer that, but I think it's probably, in the beginning it was good. I think our battery capacity held pretty well in the beginning, and then just over time we've had sort of a precipitous drop off. Because I want to say that we had we lost like 1 bar every better part of a year. Like it took 7-8 months before we lost that first bar, and then same for the second bar. But then first to drop to 5 bars, like I think from maybe 9 bars to 5 bars has been like in the last 2 years. So yeah, it just started to lose capacity very quickly. And as I mentioned, we've been driving less and less. Like the last 4 years, we've driven the Leaf way less than we did before, and yet we've been losing so much battery capacity in that time. All right, so question number 6 is again from Kimberly. She had a bunch of great questions. So Kim asks, have you changed the battery yet? Or when do you expect to change the battery? And no, we have not changed the battery. And I would probably be looking into it right now and trying to get it done very soon, or at least as soon as we move out of this pandemic and start getting back to normalcy, because our battery is pretty much shot and pretty useless outside of our little suburban bubble, like I explained before. So if we can get back to visiting people, maybe traveling a little bit, stuff like that, then I would definitely want to either get a new battery or get our battery refurbished. I've heard of services that can do that, or even look at upgrading to a better battery that Nissan has now. So one of those options I would definitely look into doing. There's a lot of service providers who do this kind of thing, and yeah, that's what I would do if it weren't for the fact that we're actually planning to move to Asia, move to Taiwan towards the end of this year. And so instead, I think we're just gonna ride it out and then just move to Asia and be done with it. So maybe in 5 years when we come back from Asia, we would consider upgrading the battery at that point, but probably instead we'd look at the newer options for electric vehicles at that time. So apparently I am super long-winded. I just love to talk. So I'm going to end this video right here and turn this into a multi-video series. I actually had 25 questions to get through, so stay tuned for part 2. And if you have any questions or comments, just drop them down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, show me some love, and I will see you next time. Do you have to pay to charge? Like, would you pay and seeing people again? Oh shoot, buying gas and buying